Hello and welcome to the Republican New Jersey gubernatorial debate presented by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm Laura Jones, and tonight we are bringing you the first debate among the Republican candidates vying for the nomination for New Jersey governor. The winner of the June primary will advance to the November general election, aiming to succeed Governor Phil Murphy. Tonight we are coming to you live from Rider University in Lawrenceville. This debate is presented by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey and is sponsored by RWJ Barnabas Health, Prudential, and McCarter in English. The debate is produced by the New Jersey Globe, On New Jersey, Rider University, and Save Jersey. Joining us this evening here on the stage, we have 4 candidates and we have a live audience. Now, we ask members of the audience to refrain from making noise, including clapping or other audible reactions during the debate. As I introduce the candidates, this will be the only time the audience is allowed to break the rule to show your appreciation with applause. And that time is now as we welcome the candidates to the stage. First, Jack Ciattarelli, former state assemblyman and the 2021 Republican nominee for governor. Bill Spadea, radio host and conservative political commentator.
Let's go, Bill.
Ed Durr, former state senator. And John Bramnick, state senator and former Republican leader in the New Jersey General Assembly. Joining me on the panel this evening is David Wildstein, editor of the New Jersey Globe, Micah Rasmussen, director of the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University, Joey Fox, congressional correspondent for the New Jersey Globe, and Matt Rudy, editor of Save Jersey. Now, we've gone over the rules of the debate and have a lot of questions to get to, so we're going to jump right into opening statements. John Bramnick, you won our candidate draw. You will go first, followed by Bill Spadea, Jack Ciattarelli, and Ed Durr. John Bramnick, the time is yours.
Thank you. We have had one-party rule in Trenton, and one-party rule without balance has resulted in overdevelopment of our municipalities. Crime is on the rise. There's been this sympathy for criminals and not for our citizens. Taxes and very expensive times for our people. But in order to change that, we have to win. What that means is you need Republican votes, Democratic votes, the moderate Democrats, and you also need independents. I have proven over the years that I can win as a Republican. I won as the Assembly Republican leader unanimously for 10 years. Thank you, Jack, for 3 votes. And let me be clear, I win a district that Kamala Harris won by 12 points, Biden won by 17 points, and I won by 7 points. So remember this, nothing changes unless we win.
Bill Spadea, next to you.
Thank you. What a blessing it is to be here tonight, an incredible opportunity. For those of you that have been listening to me on the air for the past 10 years, you know that I'm a Jersey guy. And you know that my wife Jody and I, when we say we're digging in, we are digging in. We love New Jersey. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary. Jody is here with me tonight. And we've got 2 outstanding kids. We love them. We've got a great son-in-law. And we are looking for the future of New Jersey to be one that all families can come together and afford to live here. Now, for me, I have been a U.S. Marine. I've started businesses, and I've worked in the private sector for the past 20-plus years. And I have been an ardent, strong, and effective supporter of President Donald Trump since he came down the escalator in 2015. Now, what we need and what I have committed to is that we are going to implement the America First agenda on day 1. 2 problems in New Jersey: woke Democrats who wrecked this state and weak Republicans who let it happen. We need something different. Enough of the career politicians. I am going to work very hard to earn your vote.
Jack Chitterelli.
We've heard line number one. Republicans, with me as your nominee, we can win this race. But as the minority party in this state, we have to unite. Donald Trump united the party this past election day. I will do my best, as I did in 2021, to unite the party. Let me tell you about two people who are not about party unity, two people that are really all about themselves. John Bramnick is someone who, when he's not hosting Phil Murphy to barbecues in his backyard, is calling the Trump supporters in our party crazies and a cult. As for Bill Spadea, when he's not lying about me or trashing Donald Trump, he's someone that refers to the moderate wing of our party as rhinos. He does the same thing with anyone who disagrees with him. We need a serious candidate, one who can unite our party, one who brings a very positive energy to the campaign, one who can raise the necessary money, unlike my opponents, and one who's going to benefit all candidates down ballot. To Republicans, I say I am that nominee. I hope to have your support and your vote in this primary.
Ed Durr.
Thank you for having tonight's debate and hosting it. Tonight, you're going to hear a couple of guys argue over who's more Trump-like. I'm going to ask you to block that out because it's just noise. Simple fact is, all of my opponents are connected to the political establishment. My campaign has no connection to the political establishment. Why? Because they don't want me. They fear me. Let that sink in. This campaign is going to be about affordability. On council, freeholder, assembly, Senate, two of my opponents have failed to make New Jersey affordable. The other guy, he's got a political power broker running his campaign. He's just the other side of the same coin. It'll be business as usual. The only way to fix New Jersey is by doing something different. Well, I'm different, and that scares them. So working together, we can fix New Jersey. So I'm asking you to go to edthetrucker.com and learn more. Thank you.
Well, since we got attacked.
Gentlemen, well,
Since we got attacked,
No,
I think we have an
that was opening
opportunity.
statements. Opening statements we're going to get. We're
No,
going
no,
to get.
Mr. Chitterelli
Hey, I'm the
did-
moderator, and everybody's going to get a chance to be able to talk. That was just opening statements. I think I'm going to use my bell quite a bit tonight. We thank you all for
it's a
your
good
opening
point, though,
statements.
John.
Let us know we can respond to an attack. Because
Well, it's Jersey. It's
Jack
Jersey.
forgot who the governor was because he hasn't been down there in a decade.
All right, I'm going to
running
go to
around
the
the
panel.
state
I'm going to
losing.
the panel. I'm going to go to the panel for our first questions, and
You-
you'll be
you
able
don't
to
call-
address all of
you
that.
don't
So
call
thank you
Trump
for your
supporters
opening
crazy and
statements.
a cult?
Micah Rasmussen, you have the first question.
Let's give voters a preview of January 20th, 2026, the day you hope to be sworn in. There's been enormous attention on executive orders, but let's get this out of the way first. Just 3 prior governors have lived in Drumthwack at the governor's residence just up the road from here. Would you become the 4th? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Have you been to Drumpwagon?
I enjoy South Jersey. South Jersey is a beautiful place.
Yes.
I have no idea. I think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we?
Okay. What executive orders would you repeal or sign? What else needs to happen on day one?
Well, I would end sanctuary cities for a real simple reason. If we're a law and order state, we have to follow law and order. And the federal law is that you have to cooperate with the federal government. The fact that we unilaterally make a decision to set up a sanctuary state, what if cities set up sanctuary cities against state law? Look, I feel very badly about certain people who've been here for 30 years, and this is their life. But we have to follow the law as a governor of this state.
Oh, that'd be simple. Everything that Governor Murphy made an executive order, I'd rescind because starting with all his COVID lockdown orders to his sanctuary state orders to removing employees because they didn't take the COVID shots, all of it's gone day one. So I find it amusing that John goes and says law and order, but he voted for the guy who gave Governor Murphy all these abilities to do this. You voted for Matt Plackton in the Senate. That right there should disqualify you from even being on this stage.
Well, see, since you were on you're not on the Judiciary Committee and have almost
I
no
have- I
knowledge.
have
You have
eyes,
no
John.
knowledge
I have
whatsoever.
eyes.
You were there for 2
I have
years,
eyes, and I
and
know
the
the
voters
guy
threw you
One at a
out.
time. Let
2
John
years,
Bramnick, and then you can
right.
respond, and then we'll go on.
They threw you out after 2 years because your judgment was bad.
threw me out because
I
I don't
win
play your
over
game.
and over
I
again
don't play
because
your
I've got
game,
good
John.
judgment. Now, if you had won the election, you'd
John,
be in a position
no,
to
I don't
lecture
play your
other
game.
people.
I'm here for
But
the
you-
people, not for the
Well, you may be here
establishment
for the
like you.
people, but you weren't here
You're-
for
you're
the
just the
voters. The
establishment,
voters
John. You've
told
been
you
there
to
for
take a
20
hike.
Okay.
That's what I
All right, I'm
would
going to
do.
have to make you pause right there. I'm going to make you pause. We're going to go on. Jack Girelli, Bill Spadia, do you want to answer the question?
On day one, executive order number one, no town in this state will be a sanctuary city, and we will not be a sanctuary state. Executive order number two, our 65,000 state workers are coming back to work. Half of the workforce is working from home post-pandemic. Also on day one, I call for the resignation of all those that sit on the State Board of Education that have made all those changes to the public school curriculum I and a whole lot of other people find very, very offensive. What I also do on day one is scrap Phil Murphy's ill-conceived and irrational energy plan. We need a rational transition to the future, and one that New Jerseyans can afford.
Bill Spadia.
Well, pretty funny to hear Jack say that because, Jack, as I recall, you still favor driver's licenses for illegals, which is a pathway to voting. You are the one that supported subsidizing college tuition for illegals who are here. So maybe you've changed your tune. I don't know. You looked at some polling. Not sure. Let me tell you this. Day one, we're going to rescind the 2018 executive order and get rid of the sanctuary state. We're going to rescind the 2019 Immigrant Trust Directive. We're going to issue a series of executive orders. We've got 5 already written to stop phase 4 of this high-density housing nonsense that is crushing our suburban communities.
This is coming from the man that wanted to give amnesty to people here illegally. If you don't believe me, go to phonybill.com and you'll see his podcasts and his op-eds. He wanted to give amnesty to everyone who was here illegally.
But was that done by the same consultants and lobbyist buddies of yours who
It was
figured
done
out that
by
my,
you.
Wait, who figured out that my
one
initials
thing-
are BS?
One at a time.
The videotape.
He's very
the
clever. Very
videotape-
clever. We never thought of that.
The videotape doesn't lie. Go to the videotape,
did I tell you?
phonybill.com.
And Bill, did you want a final word here?
Well, it's just silly. I mean, look, we
It's
could.
silly? It's you on the video.
We're going to
It's
decide.
you looking
know
into
what,
the
guys?
camera on your
We're gonna
101.5
decide-
podcast.
Bill has
Wow,
the floor.
I thought we were looking for an adult in the room. Clearly, we need to learn some manners.
That's right, and manners
Now-
are being honest,
now-
not lying about what you've said in
So-
the past, but
so,
the videotape
guys-
is there,
guys, look.
phonybill.com.
Look, you could take Jack and his lobbyist
I think
buddies
you
all
need to
you
ring the
want.
bell, Laura.
I choose to listen to the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who told me privately
go, arguing
and
over Trump.
publicly that he knows I've had his back from the beginning at the escalator, and I'm the only one that has had the conversation with Tom Homan about ending the sanctuary
That's
in
not what
New
I heard.
Jersey.
We're going to go on.
At
Matt.
least-
We're going to go on. It's my turn. My turn. Bring it back. Matt Rooney is next with the next question. You guys can keep on arguing, but the
think
audience
Ed
is
Durr
not going to be
just
able to hear
acknowledged his
the audience isn't going to be able to hear.
I'm going to cut in
Matt.
here for a second, gentlemen, okay? Governor Phil Murphy began his first term by declaring New Jersey a sanctuary state, as a few of you have already noted. Over the weekend, he caused a further stir by suggesting he could house an illegal immigrant above his mansion's garage and said good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her. It's still not entirely clear what's happening above the governor's garage as we sit here tonight. But what voters need to know from you tonight is the following. Specifically, we're looking for specifics here. What will New Jersey's relationship with federal immigration authorities be with you as governor?
Hey,
Well,
Matt,
we have to
Matt,
cooperate,
first I'll
but
tell
let's
you.
talk about Phil Murphy for a second. If you recall, the day after he said that, he backtracked and he said, there's nobody living over my garage. But bottom line is, we
So we
assist
should
with
go and
ICE.
investigate.
Well, they can investigate all they want. I assume the person's not there anymore, but if the person was there. The important part is we cooperate with the federal government because that's the law. And there's no doubt in my mind that's where New Jersey should be.
First off, I contacted the sheriff. Do you know that a sheriff can arrest and do the job? Following 287G, if they opt in, they can follow through with the immigration laws. So I'm calling on any sheriff who has the nerve to go to Governor Murphy's house right now and find out if there's an illegal alien there. Let's answer this question. Is he lying? Is he telling the truth? I believe he's lying because he's done nothing but lie to us since day one. But just like most of the time we hear it from the establishment, nothing but lies. So if you're going to continue to believe the lies, then you get what you deserve. But I don't want to believe the lies. I don't know about you.
On day one, I'll appoint an Attorney General who supports me in not having any sanctuary cities in this state, nor will we be a sanctuary state. The same will be with the 21 county prosecutors that I appoint. We're going to observe the rule of law. We're going to make sure our community is safe and work in partnership with the president. And by not having sanctuary cities or us being a sanctuary state, that means that our local law enforcement communities can work in partnership with any federal agency they see fit to provide for safety in our community. But with regard to being with Donald Trump from the day he came down the escalator, if you go to phonybill.com, you're going to see a video from a podcast in which this guy says that Donald Trump was beaten. He was tired, lacked courage, lacked commitment, didn't want him to run again. He endorsed Ron DeSantis. And he also suggested that Trump should have resigned and let Mike Pence finish the job. You said it. It's in your op-ed. It's in your video.
Well,
admit to what you did.
Funny, you know, Jack's lobbyist buddies have done a great job of culling through 10 years of my show, 10 years, 4 hours a day.
And they're pretty embarrassing.
They did find 17 seconds where I used the words Donald Trump and failure in the same sentence. Totally true.
But you've been with him since he came
Here's
down
the
the
funny
escalator.
thing about it. Well, you know,
You
when
said he
you
was beaten.
Bill,
You said he was tired.
Bill, it is true.
All right, so
because
I'm
I
going to
listened
yield
that
myself
show.
back 30 seconds to answer. When you guys are ready.
Yeah.
I'll wait. No, it's good. That's cool.
Actually, no.
You
we
said
do
he
need to
was
reset the
beaten.
clock.
So-
Wait,
so-
You said he was tired. You
So,
said
but
he
here
lacked
we go.
courage.
Again-
I
one
said
at a
he
time.
lacked commitment.
Bill,
The-
30
you know that-
seconds.
You know, it kind of reminds me of the old Italian dinner, right? But unfortunately, in a debate as to who is going to be the best next governor, the loudest, most disruptive, annoying person does not win.
That's exactly what
well,
you are on the radio.
So let me just,
Well, I have a
Wait,
question.
but no, I'm going to, listen,
well,
guys,
hey,
I'm going to answer the
he's not on the
question.
radio
I've been
anymore.
attacked, and I'm going to answer the question.
10 seconds.
Again, 17 seconds, and here's the funny thing that separates me from these guys on stage. After I made those remarks, after I wrote an article critical of Donald Trump not firing Anthony Fauci, after that, do you know who came on the radio? Do you know who invited Jody and I backstage in Wildwood? Do you know who said that he thought this guy thought so much of himself that he should have
was
invited Donald
before he
Trump
had
to
seen the
help him
videos, Bill.
in 2021?
That was before
so
he had seen the
after
videos.
debate
Time's
tonight,
up, Bill.
Is
So-
this
We
have to go to
debate-
traffic and
wait,
weather.
here's
Traffic and
my
weather.
question.
So
Do you
listen,
think
guys,
the people
the
of New
president of the
Jersey-
United
you think
States-
the people of New Jersey,
Jersey or
No,
Trump?
do you think
Guys.
the people of New
John
Jersey?
Bramnick,
right,
10
thank
seconds.
you. Do you think the people of New Jersey want the debate to be who loves Donald Trump the most,
you.
or
I'd like-
who
right.
loves New Jersey the most?
Matt, I'd
and let
like
me
to
tell
answer
you
your
something.
question.
And I'm going to tell you something.
Matt, I'd like to
you
answer
are
your
not.
question.
You are not going to win this state unless we get to the issues that cause our problems in this
Wait a
state.
second, wait a
and
second.
it's not
The
just
establishment.
who loves Donald Trump the most.
How can you
Let's
say
move
you
on.
love New Jersey?
Let's move on.
How can you say you love New Jersey when you called 2 million people that voted for Donald Trump in this state crazies and a cult?
Matt,
You
I'd like to
called them
answer your
crazies
question.
and a
Guys,
cult.
try this.
The question I have for Mr. Chittarelli.
Guys, I'm going to have to get a little Jersey here in a second. Okay, you know what that means.
We're
Let's
all
do a simple thumbs up question here. Thumbs up if it's already come up tonight. Right now, New Jersey provides driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Thumbs up if you would repeal that law.
Of course.
Repeal it.
Absolutely.
So Jack, of course, has
Jack
changed his
changed.
tune.
was
Jack
just thumbs
changed
up,
pretty
thumbs
quick
down.
on that one, baby.
Just thumbs up, thumbs down.
But Matt, I'd like to answer your original question because nobody answered it. How do we
I answered the
cooperate
question.
with the federal government? I've done the ride-alongs with ICE. I've made it very clear to Tom Homan that we are going to work with them to enforce federal detainer orders and get these bad guys off the streets. That's something that no one is talking about. The tactics, the details. You've got to understand this problem beyond a soundbite when all of a sudden you discover that illegal immigration is a problem after you got beat last time.
Is
As
that
the
before or
Repu-
after
Okay,
you
we're
give
going to move
everybody
on.
amnesty?
As a
David
Republican
Wildstein.
leader-
David Wildstein has the next question.
So 2 nights ago, 6 Democratic candidates stood where you did. 6 candidates stood there. You know, we're not getting the kumbaya night tonight that we did on Sunday, but you know, you move on and you adapt and everything. But in a serious question, all 6 of those candidates said they supported a constitutional amendment to guarantee a legal right to abortion. would you support putting that on the ballot, yes or no referendum, to allow New Jersey voters to make that decision, not legislators and not the governor? And let me start with Senator
Yes.
Bramnick.
I am pro-choice with a strong feeling about late-term abortions. I do not support, but I am pro-choice. Now, we got people like Jack Ciattarelli. You never know where he is. You never know which side he is on the issue. Acts like he does, not pro-choice. He is pro-choice. Where are you, Jack?
I'll answer them, John, not you.
It's okay. I didn't figure you'd answer it.
Look, I'm not ashamed. I'm pro-life, and I stand by that. And I do not agree with abortion being used as a form of birth control when we have so many options available for birth control. So I think there are exceptions, and I think that is between the woman, her doctor, and her God. As far as putting it on a constitutional amendment, I don't think that's needed. We already have the most extreme abortion laws in the country up to birth. Who in this room agrees with abortion at 7, 8, and 9 months? They say that they don't need it, but yet they have it. So why? So no, I wouldn't agree to having something put in there because the constitutional is very hard to change. I think you leave it to the legislature, and that's the other thing. We should get back to worrying about fixing the legislature because it is a stacked deck.
David, I'm the only candidate up here endorsed by New Jersey Right to Life and National Right to Life, and that is because I have never wavered nor equivocated.
But Bill, you
on
support
Bill has the floor.
an abortion
Bill has the floor for 1 minute.
Now, one thing that never gets talked about is the other side of it. And the other side of this is that there are so many young women that come from broken families, abusive situations where they don't have resources. Jody and I have spent the last 2 years traveling around this state, going to pregnancy resource centers. And you know what? If you're on the pro-choice side of the aisle, I would hope that you would accept that one of the choices should be bringing a baby and a life into this world. So the answer to your question is no. We already have the most access to abortions. We are the highest abortion state as a per capita around the country. I think it is time to address the choice of bringing a baby into the world and getting those resources behind these pregnancy resource centers so we can help these young women.
If you look at his recent interview with Steve Adubato, it's at phonybill.com, you'll see that he was actually preserving, protecting, guaranteeing a woman's right to choose. I've always supported a woman's right to choose. What I also support is a bill introduced by 2 of our most conservative state senators called the Pain Threshold Bill that says no abortions after 5 months of pregnancy with reasonable exceptions. I also support, as governor, appointing conservative judges who will support parental notification. A female in this state can't get her ears pursed at 16 and 17 without the permission of her parents, and yet parents are not going to be notified when a 16 or 17-year-old female goes to get an abortion. I don't support that. We need governors, we need judges that are in alignment with my thinking.
So on Sunday night, the quiet night, we'll call it, Republicans have been pushing for initiative and referendum for 40 years, and we saw some Democratic candidates say that they would support it. Would you like to, are there issues that you would like to see voters decide, not the legislators and the governor decided for them, but the voters decided themselves? And if there are, just name one that you'd like to see go before the voters, and I'll start with Mr. Spadea.
The voters have to decide who is going to be in the majority of our legislature. The voters have to decide who is going to be the next governor. I think the problem with initiative and referendum is the same thing we see with ballot questions. Who writes it? How is it translated? Usually very confusing, and it's always, almost always been a tool of the insiders, the elites, the professional politicians to get more of our taxpayer dollars. I think it's time that we have a legislature that is held accountable and responsible. You know, we've watched this state devolve over 30 years, both Republicans and Democrats. As I said in my open, woke Democrats pushing radical agendas and spending our money. The budget's almost $60 billion now. Last year, Chris Christie, $35 billion, and weak Republicans who let it happen. I mean, now all of a sudden we go from supporting licenses and subsidies for illegals, and not to mention what you said about police officers while you were in the assembly, saying there were more dangerous jobs than being a police officer, and they volunteered for it, so they're paid too much. I mean, reprehensible stuff. So the voters need to choose better leaders, and that's why I'm presenting myself as a candidate here tonight.
Nobody detests.
We should allow the voters to vote on issues because the Democrats have controlled the legislature for 2 decades. The voice of the public can only be heard through INR, and the first thing we should put on is cap state spending at 2%. We know that the municipalities are capped at 2%. That has significant effect on property taxes. It's now time to allow the voters to vote, and that's why I support INR.
Mr. Chitterelli, did you want to?
Yes, there is nobody the law enforcement in New Jersey detests more. There's nobody that Donald Trump detests more than Chris Christie. And yet he had him on just prior to the New Hampshire primary, gave him a most favorable 30-minute interview, and is helping him raise money. So come clean whenever you get the chance.
Plug the website, to answer your question, plug the
David,
website, Jack. You didn't plug it yet.
It's phonybill.com.
Phonybill.com?
Thank you.
Excellent.
Listen.
I'm thinking of buying ads on that website.
So now you've heard.
I don't know.
Jack hates Phil Murphy. He hates Chris Christie. He hates anybody except Jack. Let me tell you something.
So wait.
Here's the deal.
Here's the guy that called 2 million people that voted for Donald Trump crazies in a cult.
Hey, Jack, were you one of those 2 million? Because I know you worked in
Mr. Civility.
2016. And
Mr. Civility.
Okay, let's give it to John Bramnick, then Jack Chitterelli, then we're going to Joey. John Bramnick.
When you haven't been in when you've only been in the legislature for a few years or 2 years or no years, you don't understand that the governor signs things. You work with the governor.
That's right, 'cause you just had a pizza party with him or a barbecue, right?
Let me ask you about that. Are you supposed to hate the governor because he's of another party? Do you hate your family?
When he's done what he's done? Absolutely.
Absolutely,
I hate the governor for what he's done to this state.
Well, that's why you lost.
To all the people, what he's done to the children.
That's why you lost
I'm going to
after
hate
2
him.
years. But what's really important is, do you hate someone in your family because they have a different political party? That's
No. We're not talking about somebody in my family having a different point of view about a vote. We're talking
as I
about
said,
a guy who's
how many
ruined the
votes did
state,
you lose
who
by
has
6,000?
hurt children, who's hurt families.
You lost by 6,000 votes, and now you're lecturing New Jersey on how to win
We've got to
elections.
stop the interrupting.
David, I want to answer the question.
All right, I'm taking over. I'm taking over right now. Joey Fox is next. You guys have got to stop interrupting each other. You have to stop interrupting each other.
Hell, I didn't even get the question.
Laura, I'd like to answer the question. Okay? The job of the nominee is to work hard to produce seats and produce a majority. When you listen closely to Bramnick and Spady, you never hear them talking about producing a majority because they're all about themselves. I campaigned in all 40 districts, and we had our most successful night in 34 years, flipping 8 seats in the state legislature, inclling beating the longest sitting state Senate president in the country.
How do you do?
My
You
job
lost
is
twice.
to wait a second.
You lost
My
twice.
job
Now he won.
if I am unsuccessful in producing a majority, I will fight for INR to answer your question on 2 issues: school funding and affordable housing. We need to fix those 2 things. Let the public decide.
Enter final word, then we're going to Joey Fox.
I've
Answer
heard
the
you
question.
say this 1,000 times up and down the state. You were so afraid of Steve Sweeney, you would not come in my district and campaign with me. You wouldn't come to a fundraiser with me. You were afraid of him, and that's how it is. And you know it's the truth.
Well, that's not accurate.
You did not beat Steve Sweeney. I beat Steve Sweeney with the people's help, not you.
I won that district, Ed.
We're moving on to Joey Fox now with the next question.
Laura did say that we could easily devote an entire debate to any one topic, and you guys are very much proving that to be true. So I wanted to ask about New Jersey's current protections for transgender people. It's one of the states, Phil Murphy has positioned it as a state that is very much sort of a haven for a lot of transgender issues, like access to health care and access to sex-segregated spaces and things like that. If you're elected governor, would you seek to roll back any or all of New Jersey's current protections for its transgender residents? I'll go to you, Mr. Chattarelli, first.
I'm not intimately knowledgeable of all of the governor's directives with regard to that population. I will tell you this, my job is to provide for the health and safety of all 9 million citizens. There's not supposed to be any hate, there's not supposed to be any bias, there's not supposed to be any harassment, there's not supposed to be any prejudice or any discrimination. And wherever I find it, I will call it out. So I'm here to protect any and all groups, particularly marginalized groups here in New Jersey, plain and simple.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
Look,
Yeah.
Joey, sometime around 7th or 8th grade, we all take biology, and we learn that X and Y means you're a guy. It's simple. There's no confusion there. There will be no males, biological males, competing in female sports. There will be no biological males going into female locker rooms or going into the bathroom with them. I don't care what you do when you're an adult. 18, that's fine. I don't care. But when you're a minor, that is abuse to a child, in my opinion. So no, I will not agree to having these transgender ideas that the governor seems to, and then close out parents having a voice where a kid goes to school and decides one day, instead he's not Johnny, he wants to be Janie. No, that's ridiculous. The parents need to know about their family.
Senator Bramnick?
Well, first, the Republican Party should always have a heart, and we should respect everyone. The transgender community, the gay community, we must show we have a heart. That doesn't mean that we should allow biological males to play in sports as women. But let's make sure that the Republican Party shows respect for the transgender community and shows respect for non-heterosexual people, because we have to show people that we have a heart. Doesn't mean we have to change the law directly as Governor Murphy's done, but we sure have to have a heart.
First of all, there is a huge difference between sexual orientation, sexual preferences, and mental illness. So number one, we have to end the transing of children. Number one, following Donald Trump's lead by his executive order, the same thing would hold in my administration. Second, absolutely spaces in public restrooms, in our prisons, in our hospitals, in our schools should be assigned by your biology. But third, and this gets missed, I think, and I'm not surprised that Jack didn't mention this. That'll give you 30 seconds to plug the website. But parental rights has to be the top priority of the next governor. We have seen the erosion of parental rights at every single level in this state. It is time to put mom and dad back into the picture and make sure that we're protecting kids, because those kids that are going through either confusion or they're acting out or they truly have a disability and a mental situation called gender dysphoria, which is a real thing, we need to go to the caretakers and the parents first. This should not be done in our schools. And I want to stand up for the teachers and the parents, because the teachers don't like this any more than mom and dad likes it.
Joey, you did
Joey
ask about
has a follow-up.
You did ask about the governor's directives. One directive that wasn't his, that he supported, which will be eliminated on day one, was put forth by the current Attorney General, Policy 5756. No school district in this state under my administration, my Attorney General, will be keeping secrets from parents. The welfare of students is best served when they're working in partnership with parents, not in secret with parents.
So a lot of you brought up the ways that this issue overlaps with school policies. Another thing that was the subject of major debate in the last couple of years in the legislature was over book bans, or that's maybe how Democrats would refer to it, or Republicans would refer to it as, preventing pornography in schools. There's lots of different perspectives on this. I'm curious what you guys think about the legislation, the Freedom to Read Act that was passed recently.
One guy voted yes for it.
Absolutely, I voted for that. Next time you should read the legislation before you take a position on it. And here's what that legislation said. Number one, the local... No, you haven't read it. I'm going to explain it to you so you hear it.
John Bramnick has
Number one, the local Board of Education will set the policy. Two, it has to be appropriate based on ages, and the parents have a right to appeal. Before this, we had the Wild Wild West. There were no rules whatsoever. Not only that, The most conservative group in Trenton, the Family Council, withdrew all their objections to the bill because we were able to make it appropriate so the local municipality and the boards of education could make that decision. The title of the bill is the only thing you're aware of with respect to that
The only
legislation.
thing, the fact that it gives a freedom to the librarians to provide pornography
It does
to
not.
children.
Well, yeah,
it
once again,
allows inappropriate
it's just the
material
opposite.
in a
It's the
school
Board of
library that
Education.
minors can access.
The Board
John,
of Education
if you
makes that
talk like
decision.
we were
Read
going
the
for
bill.
a book ban,
Okay.
and we have restrictions on everything in life. We have restrictions for minors, and that's what this bill went and did. It allowed for minors to have access to inappropriate material.
You better
No,
grab
there's
the
no two
bill,
ways
because
about
that's
it.
not what
I
it
read
says.
the bill.
Well,
I know what it says.
Mr.
Read it
Doherty,
again.
you're continuing to interrupt, and we don't
Read
want to
it
have to
again.
mute the microphone. We don't want to have to
Follow
mute the
the
microphone.
rule,
We're going to
which you
go
should
on
always
to Mr.
do.
Chattarelli and Mr. Spadia.
There are 43 Republican legislators in the state legislature, and there's only one that voted for that bill. So what John Bramnick is saying is that his 42 Republican colleagues, 45, thank you, Ed.
No, 5 voted for it. 4 assembly and 1 senator.
Okay, well, then what he's saying is that 40 Republican legislators were wrong. Listen, we believe in home rule in this state. This is the domain of the local school board. There is only one public employee that needs, warrants, and deserves immunity, and that is our police, not school librarians, with all due respect.
Mr. Spadia.
So to the question of the bill, I would have vetoed it if I were governor. That's number one. Number two, the idea of home rule does not mean that children and parents in districts where the NJEA has poured millions of dollars and they are pushing their radical agenda, that those kids and those parents and those teachers should be left out to dry. This is what Jack did in the last race, refusing to address parental rights, refusing to say that he would step in to get the masks off the kids, refusing to say that he would step in to stop the forced jab, to stop the forced testing of all the teachers. He was so weak on this issue that he punted to say home rule. That is an excuse. What New Jersey needs and what New Jersey deserves is a tough, confident, courageous governor who will operate on principle and stand up for moms like Kristen Cobo, who is now being sued by a librarian in Roxbury for rightly pointing out the absolute pornography that is being pushed in the school library.
Okay, we're going to move
he's
on to our
lying
next
about my
question
positions.
with Mike Rasmussen. And let me remind the panel, I might remind our candidates of the rules of the debate. 1 minute to answer, 45-second follow-up. 45-second follow-up.
New Jersey is the state that's closest to full build-out, which is the point at which all the land in the state that can be developed will be developed. Once that happens, it's going to be too late to make sure that we got it right. So what must the next governor do while we still can to make sure that New Jersey strikes the right balance between homes that families can afford, land-intensive warehouse complexes, and farmland and open space?
Well, clearly we should not be telling municipalities you need to build this many units in your town. That is really poor democratic planning. What we need to do is break this state into 3 parts, the South, the Central, and the North. And you need broad planning
I'll take
where you
South.
can do, well, if you're around, which is unlikely. And then make affordable housing in 3 sections of the state, not doing what they've done, which is creating litigation, imposing incredible strain on infrastructure. This plan of building overdevelopment in towns has been a disaster.
Well, John, you like litigation, right? Ain't that why you passed the bill to up everybody's insurance premiums so that they had to
I'm
have
glad you
more
raised
lawyers?
that. I'm glad because guys like Durr and Jack, they favor only the insurance company.
No, I favor the citizens of New Jersey, John. That's who I favor.
Well, maybe, but not based
You're
on your
the
voting
lawyer
record.
who ended up profiting off the bill that you
How
and
about
Senate
this?
President
How
Scutari
So,
about
wrote?
Mr. Durr,
supporting-
when you're interrupting, you're
Thank you.
giving him ultimately more time and taking away from the rest of the panel, and we don't want to
Very
have to mute your
simply
microphone.
put, you need to stand with the average person and the consumer. My friends to my right will always stand with the insurance companies, especially the health insurance companies that aren't paying your bill, aren't paying the doctor. That's why we have a healthcare crisis in this state. So you have a choice. You can vote for the guy who's with the consumer or the guys who stand with the insurance companies. That's a clear choice.
Mr. Chitterly.
Phil Murphy's position on affordable housing and the Democratic majority of the past 2.5 decades, what they've allowed to have happen with the overdevelopment of our suburbs and taking Garden right out of the Garden State, with all the overdevelopment, flies in the face of their position on climate change. And just to show you how the special interests in Trenton work, where is the Sierra Club while all this overdevelopment is happening in our suburbs? This is why the election is so important. The governor can appoint, the next governor, a new Supreme Court Chief Justice. That matters. The governor can appoint Superior Court judges that rule in these cases. And hopefully that candidate, and it'll be me, will produce a Republican majority in our state legislature, and we can change the rules of the game. We need to stop the overdevelopment of our suburbs. It's causing stormwater management problems, flooding issues, and all kinds of things that are not consistent with the Democrats' position on sustainability. It needs to stop.
One Supreme Court appointment and waiting for a majority is going to be too late for a lot of New Jersey towns that are suffering under this high-density so-called affordable housing. On day one, we're going to issue a series of executive orders redefining what an affordable housing unit is. There is an enormous opportunity here to lower the number that towns would have to have by 10, 15, 20, even 30% by redefining that. We're talking about hotels that have housed homeless, talking about long-term beds for recovery. We're talking about jail cells in prisons, because we're going to declare a state of emergency and suspend bail reform and start filling those prisons up, because right now the perps are walking free everywhere, and we're going to count those. But number two, we have to go back to trading. We should not be building any affordable housing in an area that doesn't have the transportation or the jobs or the water infrastructure, energy infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. We have those places. They're called cities. And we're going to use the builder's escrow, millions and millions of dollars sitting there, to take that money from the suburbs, trade those housing units to the cities, and start building. But you know what? We're not going to get any of that done until we free our business community of the onerous regulations and taxes and start creating jobs. Because if we wait too long, this state will already be gone.
All right, you got
Matt
one
Rooney's
guy.
gonna
You
go.
got one guy who's going to write a bunch of executive orders. You got another guy who's going to wait for a majority that's never going to come, and the other guy who just loves lawyers.
We're going to cut you off, Matt Rooney. You're next. Because we have a lot of questions that we want to get to. And Mr. Durr, we keep interrupting. We don't want to have to mute your microphone. Matt Rooney's
You're not
next.
asking me questions.
He's got one right now.
Here's one right now. We can
He's got
start with Senator Durr. So last month, we witnessed something truly remarkable. 5 New Jersey governors, including 2 Republicans and 3 Democrats, Phil Murphy and Chris Christie were there, sat shoulder to shoulder at a groundbreaking ceremony presided over by Democrat power broker George Norcross III, who is currently battling a racketeering indictment. Observers of New Jersey politics couldn't be blamed for believing this is more evidence of the existence of what some call a deep state, an entrenched and permanent bureaucracy of special interests that crosses party lines. And no matter who wins the election, the same people and interests always seem to remain in power. So my question for you, we could start with Senator Durr. Does New Jersey have a deep state problem? And if so, what would you do to address it?
I'd empower the people, because absolutely we have an establishment problem. That's what I told you. We have guys here who are been in the system for years. We have people who've been part of the system who are running other campaigns. This is a cabal, whatever, for lack of a better term, that has controlled New Jersey, and they like the status quo. If you're going to change something, you got to do something different. And I'm the guy who's different. That's the only way you're going to be able to change this state.
Phil Murphy, as a CEO, has been MIA, as has his administration. And when that happens, mid-level bureaucrats in Trenton are running our state agencies, which during his tenure have become a police state and collection agencies instead of partners. I'm a CEO. I'll be a CEO governor that goes to work every single day, as will my administration, and will be dictating how things go in Trenton. But let me say one other thing, too. I've been very fortunate in life due to my hard work. I don't need the job, and I mean that with the utmost humility. But what it means is nobody owns me, unlike people that own this guy. But you don't need to worry about me being owned by any one person. You don't need to worry about me being owned by the special interest. We'll go down to Trenton, and we'll get the job done.
Sounds like you're owned by the person who writes your talking points, because that's what it sounded like to me. So, you talk about Bill Spady being owned by somebody? I mean, get out of town. Here's my question. We have corruptions in this state, so you need to appoint an attorney general who will make sure that he roots out corruption. Same with the United States attorney. But this concept of deep state, those are kind of terms that you throw out there. And what are you talking about? Corruption? Yes, we have corruption, and we need to address that. What kind of deep state? Because someone has been elected to the legislature for a while, all of a sudden they're in the deep state? That's that mythology that I think you hear on cable TV, but it's not reality. Most people in the legislature are hardworking, care about the state, and doing the right thing. So let's get rid of this deep state nonsense.
So you have to ask yourself, why would Jack Chitterelli, who has now plugged this website, 16 or 17 times, he and his corporate lobbyist buddies, guys like Princeton Public Affairs and Kitchen Table Conservatives and all these deep pocket backroom elites, why have they spent now millions of dollars attacking me? You know why? Because I started a group called Elect Common Sense. And Elect Common Sense raised $1 million in 10 months, and our average donation was $11.14 a person. I have a radio show, had one, and thanks, Jack, for trying to get me fired before I was ready to leave. But I have a radio show with more than 1 million listeners.
Not true.
These are real people, divided evenly, by the way, by Democrats a third, Republicans a third, Independents a third. And you know what? And maybe Jack in the back room don't want to hear this, but unlike almost any talk show around the country, 55% of my listeners, women. And when the people speak, I've spent 10 years not just talking as a media host, but listening to the concerns of New Jerseyans, and I've learned a lot. You're learning a lot from up here, and let me tell you something, guys, we can do a lot better.
Mr. Rooney has a follow-up.
One of the things, gentlemen,
very quickly, Common Sense Club, he's exploited every single one of those small dollar donors, because if you go to phonybill.com,
17.
you'll see the IRS filings for commonsense.com. And on page 17 of the IRS filings, you'll see that Bill Spady paid himself $65,000 with all those small dollar donations. Yeah. He paid himself. He didn't disclose that when he was soliciting donations, but that's Bill Spady. Phony and fraud,
Actually,
Bill Spady.
Actually, Jack, I did disclose it because
On the
first
IRS
of all, Jack doesn't know
the
the
IRS
difference.
filing, you
Jack
disclosed
doesn't know
it.
the difference between Common Sense Club, but thank you for plugging that because we have 152,000 members in the Common Sense
On the
Club.
IRS
And
files, he
Elect
paid
Common
himself
Sense,
$65,000.
which is our PAC. So let me just say this
I
very,
think it was for
very
12
briefly.
hours of work a week. You
So let me
paid
explain
yourself.
this very briefly.
The guy's
How
a
many
grifter.
of you have started a business, a startup, a
Then why
restaurant,
does it say
a
payroll?
small shop? How many
Why
of you
does
have
it say
done that?
payroll and not?
Okay, I don't think this is
No.
productive. This is no longer productive. Matt Rooney has a follow-up.
guys,
No longer
gentlemen,
productive.
one of the few things tonight, one of the few things tonight that's not controversial is that New Jersey has a culture of corruption. So what I'm eager to know, and what the voters are eager to know, we've heard appointing an attorney general who will fight corruption is very important. What else would you do specifically to change that perception?
To prevent me from answering the question.
Bill, would you like to go first?
I want to answer the question. I'm going to take my 30
It wasn't a
seconds
question.
and respond to Jack. So, guys, if you've started a business, you know that starting up a business, it costs sometimes 80, 90, 95 cents on the dollar to get off the ground. We were profitable within 10 months. And you know what I didn't
Profitable?
do?
It's a
What I
nonprofit.
didn't do,
It's a nonprofit.
So our accountant here.
CPAs are honest.
So here's what
CPAs are honest.
Here's
Paid
what we
himself
did.
$65,000.
Bill,
Jack,
finish.
really?
Bill.
Jack, I got to be honest, Jack. You are embarrassing yourself tonight.
I don't
We
think
are trying
the
to
truth
have
is never
a
embarrassing.
civil
Bill.
conversation. Well, why don't I educate you a little bit?
Your IRS
So,
form did that.
Instead of hiring a six-figure executive director to run Common Sense Club, Elect Common Sense,
You paid
guys,
yourself.
I did it myself.
Okay.
And you know what I didn't have?
While he was an employee of the radio station.
You know
Bill,
what
wrap it
I
up.
didn't have $65,000 to pull out of my pocket to go around the state, 5, 6 events a day, knocking on doors
Okay.
with school board candidates, mayors. So what I did was,
Look at who else he paid.
Look
at who else he paid on the IRS form.
We set a
We're
cap
gonna
on
get back to the
expenses,
question.
and I paid myself back. And guess what? What he's not telling you. The company still owes me $12,000. So that
We have a
Before we
student.
move on, would anyone like to answer the question briefly?
Are we back to the corruption question, or is
Yes.
the Jack, or is the Jack
The
versus Bill show?
corruption question.
Look, the U.S. attorney has to focus on corruption, and the attorney general has to focus on corruption. That is the only way you're going to root out the deep-seated corruption in this state, shown by people like Bob Menendez.
Matt, Ed?
I was just going to say, you just asked the question prior to that about how you're going to have former governors and then a guy who's indicted all posing together, and then you're asking about corruption. Do you not see the correlation there? Clearly, there's corruption in this state. Nobody cares. Nobody cared about Menendez being corrupt when he was towing the line for the Democrat Party. As soon as he stepped out, that's when they went after him. Anytime you step out, the establishment goes after you, just like they went after me, because I wouldn't toe the line. That's why they went mature and had support against me and primaried me in the election. So this state is crooked as it can be. And you're not going to get it changed by electing the same people who are already crooked.
What's
You need
amazing-
to
We
have
have a
somebody
question.
who's
We have a
decent.
question now. We have
Who
a
do you
question now
trust?
from
Wait,
a
Matt,
student
who do you
at Rider
trust?
University.
Can I answer Matt's question on corruption? The Committee
ahead.
for State
Yes.
Investigations CEO just had to resign because she did something corrupt. That's what happens in Phil Murphy's world. I will combine the State Committee of Investigation, whose job it is to investigate fraud in state government, with the State Comptroller's Office and put it underneath an Auditor General to be the equivalent of a Department of Governmental Efficiency and Corruption. That's what we need in the state of New Jersey. We need an Auditor General. We've got overlap right now between the State Comptroller and the Committee for State Investigations. Combine the two for greater efficiency, put it under one Auditor General, appointed by me, becomes a cabinet member to ferret out corruption all throughout state government.
Just one quick
Bill
thing.
Spady has the final, and then we take a
What I
student
think
question.
is corrupt, and Jack, you're a CPA, so you might
$65,000
even
paying yourself?
understand these numbers. $25 million spent running for governor for now the third time. 2/3 coming from the taxpayers. This man has been unemployed for 9 years, permanently running for governor. If you want more of the same, you got it right here. I think we need something a lot different.
Yeah. Okay, Bill.
Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Then we have a student from Rider University with a question coming up. We want you to stay with us as debate night, New Jersey gubernatorial primary continues. Stay with us.
My mom and I talk about everything, from family recipes to health plans. She's my go-to for advice. When I was choosing a plan for Gina and myself, she suggested Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Mom has been a member since before I was born. A lot has changed since then, but Horizon has always been there. They focus on our overall health, including dental and vision plans. My family is what matters most to me, and I have peace of mind knowing that we're covered by Blue.
Whatever your cancer journey, there's one place in New Jersey where our discoveries become your care. You'll have access to advanced treatments, including clinical trials, thanks to our renowned scientists and multidisciplinary teams at New Jersey's only NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center, the one world-class cancer program that's close to home. RWJ Barnabas Health and Rutgers Cancer Institute. Let's beat cancer together.
Michael is about to retire.
All right.
Here's what's going into his retirement. Your retirement is the sum of your life's work. Now what? Protect your life's work and help secure and grow your retirement savings with Prudential.
A transformative experience doesn't happen by accident. It's created with purpose. It's built on an engaged learning program that challenges you to go out and create your own opportunities on campus and anywhere else. It empowers you to chart your own course, compete and win at the highest level, and grow into a workforce-ready grad. It's signified by making the most of this pivotal time in your life. How will Rider University transform you? My mom and I talk about everything, from family recipes to health plans. She's my go-to for advice. When I was choosing a plan for Gina and myself, she suggested Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Mom has been a member since before I was born. A lot has changed since then, but Horizon has always been there. They focus on our overall health, including dental and vision plans. My family is what matters most to me, and I have peace of mind knowing that we're covered by Blue.
Whatever your cancer journey, there's one place in New Jersey where our discoveries become your care. You'll have access to advanced treatments, including clinical trials, thanks to our renowned scientists and multidisciplinary teams at New Jersey's only NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center, the one world-class cancer program that's close to home. RWJ Barnabas Health and Rutgers Cancer Institute. Let's beat cancer together.
Michael is about to retire.
All right.
Here's what's going into his retirement.
Yes!
Your retirement is the sum of your life's work. Now what? Protect your life's work and help secure and grow your retirement savings with Prudential.
A transformative experience doesn't happen by accident. It's created with purpose. It's built on an engaged learning program that challenges you to go out and create your own opportunities on campus and anywhere else. It empowers you to chart your own course, compete and win at the highest level, and grow into a workforce-ready grad. It's signified by making the most of this pivotal time in your life. How will Rider University transform you?
Welcome back to the Republican New Jersey gubernatorial debate presented by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. A very spirited evening. I'm going to remind everybody of the rules of the debate. We have 1 minute to answer the question. Not everybody's going to be able to answer every single question, but those who get to follow up have 45 seconds. Now, if you interrupt, we're going to have to count that interruption as your time, just so we can get to as many questions as possible. Our next question is coming from a student here at Rider University, where we are coming to you live from, and that student is Joe Seawald. Joe.
Hello. So, Phil Murphy said he'd fix New Jersey Transit if it killed him, and, well, he's not dead and it's still not fixed. So, what would you have done different on New Jersey Transit if you were governor for the last 8 years? And what is your plan for New Jersey Transit if you are elected this November? Thank you.
Let's go with Bill Spadia first.
Well, first of all, we have to start hiring people who understand transit instead of giving out jobs to people who are politically connected. That's number one. Number two, why are we always talking about throwing money at New Jersey Transit instead of actually fixing the problem of logistics? Why do you have buses running in the middle of the night with no one on it? Why does New Jersey Transit sit on so many acres of land that could be monetized for rateables to our local communities? We need a transportation expert to come in and actually manage the transportation system. Too often, it's easy for NJ Transit to blame Amtrak for delays instead of saying, why don't we dig deep? And instead of focusing what Phil Murphy focused on, let's convert our buses to EVs, we ought to be focusing on making sure the buses are on time and they're efficient. There's a company that is doing an amazing job called Boxcar, and this is now a private commuter bus service that could easily become a part of a public-private partnership to alleviate some of the burden on the government and get our transit system operating more efficiently.
Jack
New
Gilliard is
Jersey
next.
Transit trains run on rails owned by Amtrak. And on this issue, like congestion pricing, our 2 U.S. senators have been MIA. As governor, I'd be leaning hard on our U.S. senators to get the federal Amtrak system and its rails in shape so New Jersey Transit can run better. I also believe that part of my restructuring of mass transit systems in New Jersey is we'll put them all under one roof. I believe the Turnpike, the Parkway, and Transit should all be under one authority, the Garden State Transportation Authority, with people appointed by me that know what they're doing to get the job done. But we need to lean on our 2 U.S. senators who are MIA on this as they are on congestion pricing.
Edgar.
Look, where I'm from, they're talking about building a rail line from Camden to Glassboro. Why would we even do that when we can't get the trains to run on time that are existing? For as long as I can remember, transit's been a problem. But nobody seems to want to address the real issue, is we have the same guys doing the same thing over and over, and nobody's getting in there and fixing the problem. And that's what I would do when I'm governor. I will address the problem. I will have access to the best and brightest minds, and we will solve this issue, and we will have people getting the train ride on time.
John Bramnick.
The problem is the infrastructure. We pay millions to Amtrak, and we get no change in infrastructure. I am telling you that there's nothing you can do to fix New Jersey Transit unless the infrastructure is changed. Recently, about $300 million came in to try to help with the overhanging wires. The bottom line is, unless the federal government gives us a boatload of money, and we need to fight for that, this cannot be fixed. I've spoken to every prior governor about this. I spoke to Chris Calori about this. This is a federal situation that must be fixed.
David Wildstein has the next question.
Thank you. You all seem to be having a great time tonight, so thanks. The Trump administration is taking steps to defund and dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. He wants to do it from within. If you're elected governor, will you seek to do the same thing at the New Jersey Department of Education? I'll start with Assemblyman Chitterelli.
I don't think we need more than a couple dozen people, David, to set the standards for what aptitude is for our children here in New Jersey. And at the end of the day, what matters most to a child's education is their teacher and their parents' role. So all these people that we have, thousands upon thousands working in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Education, also here in New Jersey, why? How many people does it take to establish the standards for what reading and math and aptitude should be for any child throughout their K through 12? Let's establish those standards. Let's provide for a curriculum as promulgated by a state board of education appointed by Governor Chitterelli. And then let's hope that our local school boards in partnership with parents and teachers can get the job done on behalf of our parents. I don't know why we need thousands upon thousands of people working at the federal and state level to do that, to improve our educational system. But the other thing that we need in this state, which I support, is school choice. Where a school system is failing, people ought to have a choice. Vouchers, charter schools, and the like. We've seen none of that under Phil Murphy because he's owned by the NJEA.
So, David, I'll go with if you don't mind. First of all, I'm not so sure my opponent.
Polite, of course.
Thank you. I don't know that my opponent really understands what school choice means. Let's talk about it in detail. First of all, we need education savings accounts in New Jersey. We need a Department of Education that reflects the diverse sources of education involving homeschooling and microschooling, and yes, charter schools. But I'm not sure that Jack understands the reason that we need to empower the charter schools is because the only way we're going to get property taxes down is we have to lower the cost of education. I live in Princeton, and my wife and I love this town. We moved there because the schools were great. And you know what? The schools in Princeton, it costs about $18,000 to educate one kid. In the charter schools, it costs about $12,000. So on average, we're talking about 2/3 of the cost. In Newark, New Jersey, you're spending more than $1 billion, and 9 out of 10 children cannot do math at grade level. So what do we need to do? We need to take those 4,000 kids and get them out of that failing school
Not the
system.
radio, Bill. Not the radio.
We need to leave successful schools alone. The meddling of the Department of Education in good schools, making it harder and harder for teachers to teach because of all of the mandates that come down from the Department of Education. Department of Education should be focusing on the schools that are not successful and leaving the successful schools alone. They're doing just fine. I would make sure that my Department of Education would focus on those schools that are failing and put the mandates on them, not on the successful schools.
I agree with Jack here. We have too much bloat in our Department of Education. But what we really have is a power that is corrupt, the NJEA. And I love the good teachers, but I don't think good teachers want their union dues going to support a guy who's running for governor or a guy who goes and thinks that he should be able to mass children in school just because he's afraid of a bug. So yes, I think that the New Jersey's state government, the Board of Education, needs to be changed and brought back down to the home rule. And it's vouchers, Bill, that we need to support. We have to support vouchers because that is actually the way the money will follow the child on school choice.
Laura, what we also need with regard to taxes schools is a new school funding formula. That is the only way to lower taxes. The school portion tax of our property tax bill with a new school funding formula. We'll get one under Chettarelli. But it's interesting that Bill should mention Princeton. This is his third time running for office. He's a two-time loser, still has outstanding debts from the previous runs. Every single time he's run, the Republicans that know him best, the Princeton Republicans, have not endorsed him. They've endorsed
you
me.
the other day.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
The people that know him best.
Jack's talking about two-time losers?
The people that know him best.
Let me, Assemblyman, let me go with that, and let me ask a follow-up to you. You say we need a new school funding formula in New Jersey. Tell me what that looks like.
Here's what it looks like under Governor Chettarelli. First and foremost, the state has to take over the cost of special education. Local school districts can no longer afford on their own to do special education, and there should not be disparity in the quality of special education from one district to the next. The state has to take over the cost of special education. And then every district should get X for every English-speaking student, Y for every English language learner, and then each school district needs to be within a reasonable range on their cost per pupil. And if they are not, they will lose state aid. There's no reason why the cost per pupil in Newark should be $34,000 per student, while in the town that I came from, Hillsborough, it was $16,000 per student. No one's ever going to justify that to me. And that's the argument that needs to be made before the Supreme Court, because I believe it violates the Equal Benefit Clause of our state constitution.
You know, the biggest threat to our schools now is there is a case pending that is going to take away your local school, meaning that your child in the first or second grade may be subject to be bused 10 miles away. And the Murphy administration and the Democrats are not talking about that. If we don't get a Republican governor in 2026, you know what's going to happen? They are going to take away your local school based on the case that's existing now.
So a couple things on school funding. First of all, one of the biggest drains and the reason that we are not effectively funding a lot of special education is because we have 900,000 illegals in our state. And we don't know how many hundreds of thousands of these kids are into school districts that the school district just has to accommodate. So you've got to do a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to go back to education savings accounts, which do give parents choice, which allows their money to follow the child, but at the same time empowers the local public schools. Now, once you start to lower the cost, and Jack is fond of this home rule thing, it's a nice talking point and a soundbite, but here's the reality. The NJEA runs so many of our local school boards that our parents and kids are left out to dry. We're not getting a return on investment. First thing we need to do is cap property taxes, and I've got a plan to do that to make sure that the districts live within their budgets.
Ed Durr, and then we go to Joey.
Okay, this is the thing that nobody's talking about. We have way too many districts in this state. We have actually a district that doesn't even have school in Hynella. And this is the bloat that New Jersey has. We have a waste of money. So this addresses your property tax. This addresses the funding issue. Absolutely, we have to get rid of the school funding formula because it is flawed. And if we have to sue to make it happen, we will do it under my administration because the bloat in this state is ridiculous. Again, we are going from a $35 billion budget. We're now at a $57 billion budget. And I think you remember the other night, they saying if we keep the course, we're going to be at $90 billion. We have to cut the spending.
Another
Joey
guy
Fox
wants
is
to
next.
take away your local school.
Joey Fox is next.
So I don't want any words on the first part of this question. I just want you to raise your hands if you think that taxes in New Jersey are too high. Okay, so I see 4 hands. So I want to flip that question around and ask, are there any contexts in which you think that raising taxes would be a good idea? Are there any people or companies or groups in New Jersey where you think that the taxes are not high enough right now?
I would raise taxes on the Democratic legislature if they raised taxes. And, there was an old comedian who used to say, we'll give you a break if you give the consumers a break. And the Democrats have never seen a tax they don't love.
He might have an idea there since they gave themselves a raise in the legislature. So maybe giving them an extra tax wouldn't hurt. But no, I don't think that we need to tax more. We need to spend better. That's the problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. This state tends to throw away money on frivolous things. Bill is right. We have too many illegals here, and they drain on our services. So we have to address that. We have to stop the waste of money that goes on in this state. And that's where you'll end up saving. So no, we don't need to tax more. We need to take taxing off.
New Jersey individuals and New Jersey businesses face the highest overall tax burden in the country. And so in part, Joey, I'd like to answer your question with a question. How is it Pennsylvania can lower its business tax from 10 to 5%? And ours increased as of last July 1st from 9 to 11.5, the highest in the nation. How is it that Pennsylvania can have a 3% flat tax for all individuals, and yet we've got 8 brackets that go up to 11%, the second highest in the nation? If Pennsylvania can do it, we can do. But I do believe at one point in time you suggested a sales tax increase that was an $800 million tax increase for state government.
Anyway, Joey, I'd like to address your question first. Maybe what Jack is referring to is my opposition to the gas tax, which was to me, a complete boondoggle. But let's move on from that. You want to plug the website one more time, Jack?
No, but I am going to tell him about your support for Kim Gadagno.
Yeah, I did support Kim. Okay, proud of that. She's a friend of mine.
And
I thought she was damn good lieutenant governor. So let me address your question.
With your help, John.
Here's the issue about taxes in this state.
because we knew you
Taxes
couldn't
in this
Well, we
state.
saw how that worked out.
Yeah.
And we have to put time back on the
When
clock.
we talk about taxes in this state, we have a long history of both Republicans and Democrats not understanding how to effectively use tax cuts. Tax cuts should be used with a return on investment. When taxes are lowered, whether it's the rates on NJ bait, which more small businesses should be encouraged to take advantage of, lowering the CBT. Absolutely, that it should be much lower than our neighbors, and that's how we attract businesses in. The problem is that the pundits and the Democrats and many of these weak Republicans look at it as static, that the minute I lower taxes, I lose that revenue. No, we should look at it as an incentive to create jobs, create businesses, and bring them in. But I'm going to directly answer your question, Joey. There is one tax that I do think should be increased, and that is that the legislature punted on the electric vehicle surcharge of $250. When you ask firefighters across this state if they are equipped and ready for these EV fires that burn sometimes for 8, 12 hours, costing 30,000 gallons of water, they'll tell you, no, we need more funding for that. So I want to know why the gas-powered cars are paying the gas tax, paying everything that the EVs are not paying. $250, way too low. It ought to be $1,000 at least.
So, Mr. Spade, I want to stick with you for one quick follow-up, which is something that we also brought up at the Democratic debate a couple of nights ago. One of the biggest expenditures from the state budget is on funding the state pension system. And I wanted to ask the four candidates here, all of the Democrats essentially committed that they would continue to fund the state, fully fund the state pension system, despite the fact that it is such a drain on the budget. Will you four also commit to that, or do you think that that needs to be reconsidered?
No, it absolutely needs to be reconsidered. It's a $7 billion drain. And we have a roadmap. It's called Act 10. It was passed in Wisconsin. We go back 14 years. Governor Scott Walker was able to lead the charge to take a $3.6 billion deficit, turn it into a $900 million surplus. And by the way, teachers got an increase in pay. It's a huge drain. We need to draw the line. We need to talk about 403B plans. We need to make sure that our teachers who are in the system at a point where they're nearing retirement are made whole. But as far as the entire system, teachers and state workers, but I'll tell you this, we're going to separate out the cops and firefighters because I fully support a cost of living adjustment for our hero first responders.
Well, we have to.
Bottom line is this, Joey.
You know, by
Anybody
law-
who's earned a pension will be paid their pension. That promise has to be fulfilled. If you've earned a pension, you've got to be paid a pension. And I, too, support a COLA increase for our cops, particularly if we set the right criteria. I'm not talking about, nor are the cops, someone that retired yesterday. But if somebody retired more than X number of years ago, is above a certain age, and their pension is below a certain amount, based on what inflation has done to their purchasing power, they need to have their COLA. And what a lot of people don't realize is our law enforcement community does not get Social Security. Their only source of income in retirement is their pension. So let's come up with a criteria that we can all agree on and reestablish the COLA. But anybody who's earned a pension,
a new law that
The
opens
federal
that's for
government
cops,
just,
Bill.
the federal government
That's for
just
cops that have
changed the law.
retired. That's for
your
cops
time
that have
is
already
up. John
retired.
Bramnick.
Let's be
John
clear.
Bramnick is next.
Let's be clear.
My God.
That the law requires us, when people are in the pension for a certain period of time, to get their pension. Those are promises that legislatures and governors have made for years. I commit to fulfill that promise. Now, new people in the system, we should seriously consider alternatives to our present pension system. But to stand up here and say you're not going to fulfill a commitment to teachers and law enforcement, I think is the wrong policy. And let's be 100% clear. I am a co-sponsor of that COLA legislation because we told police and fire years ago, when money became available, we were going to reenact COLA. We haven't done it, and that is a real mistake.
Joey, absolutely, we should honor the commitments we made to the men and women who earn those pensions. But as John said, yes, we have to consider the new hires, and we have to come up with another format. And as far as COLA goes, for all the men and women out there who are seeking the COLA, understand that this has been an issue, and you've had a Democrat-controlled legislator who could have passed it at any time and has refused to. So remember that when you're going to the ballot box, because it's the Democrats who refuse to pass COLA, not the Republicans.
Funny, Jack started supporting COLA after he heard me talking about it on the radio. And beyond that, this is a man, if you're a police officer, you need to hear this. This is a man who thinks there are more dangerous jobs than being a police officer, and they pay more. His words. And beyond that, you volunteered for it. Boy, Jack, I wonder how you would deliver that message to a husband or a wife or a child or a mother or a father of a fallen police officer. Really reprehensible.
My Army captain's son will be deployed to the Middle East on February 19th. And so listen, when he says that
So are you
all of a
walking back
sudden
your
that my
statement?
positions are because he said it first, it's just another lie. You can't go to phonybill.com on that one, but I'm here to tell you it's a lie.
We're going to go next to Mike Rasmussen.
All of you have raised your own concerns and differences with some of the public health measures used by New Jersey to prevent the spread of COVID, which of course included lockdowns, school shutdowns, and vaccine mandates. If another epidemic or public health crisis were to strike while you were in office, what are the ways New Jersey would prevent its spread instead? We know exactly what you would not do, but what are the steps that New Jersey would take to respond to stop the spread in the public health crisis?
I would follow science. You know, I wouldn't follow somebody on the internet in some other country who made some comment on the internet. When COVID hit, it was a nightmare in hospitals. Beds were not available. Immediately, action had to be taken. If I and when I am the governor, I am going to bring in infectious disease experts and people with science backgrounds, not people from the internet. I believe in science, and you want a governor who believes in science. You don't want some partisan governor who's going to make decisions based on some constituent or somebody on the internet. This is really, really important part of being a governor. Follow the science. And that's what we did for a limited period of time. One other issue on that. Governor Murphy continued to extend a state of emergency without any input whatsoever from the public or from the legislature. We tried to pass legislation. When you do a state of emergency, you need to have public input. That was a major failure.
One thing I wouldn't do is do what Governor Murphy did. Absolutely. I wouldn't put sick patients in a nursing home or veterans home and cause 15,000 deaths that you agreed with his attorney general that he could be an attorney general because he was the one who gave Governor Murphy that possibility. I would agree. Follow the science, but I also would allow the people to decide what's best for them. They are adults. They know how to deal with themselves. Locking down a state was wrong. Taking kids out of school was wrong. Masking people and telling them they have to take a shot was wrong. Taking their jobs away from them was wrong. So no, just because somebody says something, and whether it be on the internet or be the doctors standing next to you like Dr. Fauci was and saying that, it was wrong. So you have to let people do their own choice because that's what this country's about, freedom.
Jack Ciattarelli.
I think the governor has to strike the right balance between public safety and keeping things as open as possible so that we don't harm our economy or do what this governor did. You'll often hear that the New Jersey governor is the most powerful in the nation by state constitution, and that's true. But if we learned anything from the pandemic, maybe too powerful. 212 executive orders, running government by fiat with no impact for the legislature. This is the guy that opened up nursing homes and closed our schools, killed veterans in our nursing homes, destroyed businesses, particularly on Main Street, 2 years of learning loss. The children, the people least susceptible to the virus were shut out from their schools for a second year, and we're still recovering from the learning loss. I think the governor has to strike the right balance based on what the information is available. Look at the difference between what happened in New Jersey and what happened in Florida. The governor's job is to strike the right balance. As for the vaccinations and the masks, I'm a live and let live guy, okay? You want to wear a mask? Wear a mask. You want to get vaccinated? Get vaccinated. It's your life to live.
Time's up. Bill Spadia.
Let me tell you what I'm going to do on day one. We're going to get retroactive pay and reinstate all of those corrections officers, nurses, and everybody else that was fired because they did not submit to the tyranny of the mask and the forced jabs. By the way, the lockdown, the jabs, the masks, this guy supported it.
That's a lie.
Supported all of it.
That
well,
is
you know,
a
Jack,
lie.
silence is complicit.
That is a
said
lie.
nothing. While I was on the air every single day, and I don't have to tell anybody here, if you listen to me, you know, not only did I stay away from that poison jab, but I fought hard for medical freedom for families to make decisions on their own.
Live
a
and let
governor
live.
has to be, wow, live and let live for all those corrections officers that were fired, all those businesses that were closed, all those bank accounts that were seized. Really, live
You just disrespected millions of Americans who decided to get millions of New Jerseyans who decided to get the vaccine.
Who decided?
You just disrespected them.
I speak for the parents and the families and the nurses and the firefighters and the cops who did not want to go near this experimental jab, but were forced to, faced with that impossible decision of, do I lose my job and I can't pay my bills, or do I comply with this tyranny?
Jack, 15
and sadly,
seconds, and then
Jack was silent on all of it, refusing, by the way, to stand with the Newark firefighters when they asked him during the campaign in 2021 to come and stand. You know what he did? He called us, yelling that we didn't give him enough time to get to the rally. Jack, I remember that call.
This is an indecent man who cannot bring himself to say the truth. He's a phony who will say anything to anybody at any point in time to gain favor and win their vote. Go back to the record of the 2021 campaign when I said no mask mandates, no vaccine mandates, and nobody should lose their job because they decide not to get vaccinated. That's the truth.
And now live and let live, huh?
Bill, I just want to ask you a question. You said complicit. If you are silent, you're complicit, right? That's what you said. So when you're silent to a senator who is an abortionist, who is against the children, who has the school policies, 5756, the Freedom to Read Act, but yet you say you stand with
you talking about
Bingo
this
Pal.
guy over here?
You support Bingo Pal, who signs for abortion up to birth.
He wasn't silent.
You know what's funny?
He endorsed them. That's right.
So
if silence is complicit, then you're complicit. So how do you call yourself
I would love to take a show of
individual?
hands
How do you
of
call
anybody
yourself
who
a pro-family?
actually thinks I endorsed Vingo Pal. As a matter of fact,
You went to his
the
family.
opposite is true.
Okay,
Not
all right.
only-
This is not
Guys.
productive. This is not productive. We're going to move on. We are going to move on. Matt Rooney has the next question. Matt Rooney.
Thank you,
has the next question.
Laura. We can start with Assemblyman Chitterelli on this one. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, initiatives are rapidly falling out of favor in corporate America. Now President Donald Trump is moving aggressively to dismantle DEI programs and offices within the federal government and those financed by our tax dollars elsewhere, including $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbian workplaces, and $70,000 for the production of a DEI musical in Ireland, which might almost be as entertaining as this debate. So if elected governor, would you be similarly aggressive in eliminating DEI in New Jersey state government, and what would it look like?
Donald Trump is doing what he's doing because this is what the people of this country want. Even in California, the deep blue state of California, the liberal state of California, twice over, referenda on affirmative action have been voted down. I believe that DEI is affirmative action on steroids. We are a meritocracy, okay? We want to provide equal opportunity, but not equal outcomes. And so I believe what the president is doing is right, and you're seeing it all across corporate America and all the other spaces across the country. Like everything else that's happened during the Phil Murphy era, the pendulum swung too far. It became way too liberal and unfair in many other ways. So I support the president, what he's doing on DEI.
So, Matt, to that point, two things. Funny hearing this from Jack Chitterelli, who actually said at a college speech that he lost in 21 because his campaign was, quote, too white. He said it. So I'm not so sure he's credible to even answer that question. But I'll tell you what I'll do. Executive order and end DEI. End it. We're going to follow the president's lead and issue the executive orders that rip out this absolutely racist institution which kills productivity and denies qualified workers a job.
DEI is a problem in this country. Donald Trump has started the ball rolling, and it will continue in New Jersey under Governor Durr. We are a meritocracy, absolutely. It's from day one, we all know. The harder you work, the more you get, the better things get in life. Why should that change just because you get into the government? It shouldn't. So we're going to go by that rule in my administration.
John Bramnick.
Hiring should be based on qualifications and the ability to perform as an employee, period.
All right, we're going on to David Wildstein.
Yeah, so we're running out of time, so I'm gonna go quick, and if it's okay with everybody, let's cut it down to 30 seconds. I know that's not easy, but state officials and local officials have been battling the Supreme Court's Mount Laurel decision since the 1970s, and it seems like everybody's running in place. It's still a hotbed issue today. It's gone through 9 different governors without some officials being satisfied. Can you say if you're comfortable with the new fair share housing law that was passed last year, or do you have a better mousetrap to fix this so that we're not talking about this?
Yes,
in
better
30
mousetrap,
in 30
David,
years?
is to sue and get that overturned. The Mount Laurel decision is wrong, and we should let the communities decide how they want to do.
The Democrats passed that bill with no Republican support. We need to go back to the Supreme Court. We have new Supreme Court justices now, 2 people that I supported heavily. We need to go back to the Supreme Court. It's very different than it was 30 or 40 years ago under Mount Laurel. We need rulings that change what the requirements are with respect to affordable housing. Day one, I will sit down with the Democratic leadership, because you know the Senate is still going to be Democratic, and that's going to be priority number 1 or 2, that we're going to sit down and we're going to make sure that we don't overdevelop these suburban areas.
The next governor, and I hope it's me with the support of the Republican primary voters, gets to appoint the next Supreme Court Chief Justice. That's a big deal. The governor of this state gets to appoint Superior Court justices. We just lost another Mount Laurel case 2 weeks ago before a Superior Court judge. We need Republican legislators. That's what this campaign is all about. As for the better mousetrap, I'd like to see us come back with RCAs, Regional Contribution Agreements. They worked before, they can work again.
I can't believe it, but I agree with that point. But here's the problem. You can't wait to replace the Supreme Court. You can't wait to let it drag through the court system. You can't wait till we have legislative action. The governor in New Jersey has the most executive power of any governor in the country, and I intend to use it on day one. We have 5 executive orders ready to restore the RCA trading agreements and redefine what a housing unit is. And we're going to move these housing units into our cities. Our suburban towns, our middle-class communities need relief today. And by the way, losing that court case a couple of weeks ago, the judge gave us the opportunity to declare a housing emergency because they said it in the ruling. So we're just going to do it a different way, and instead of following through with what they want, we're going to stop it in its tracks and lock it up.
So we're going
Okay, Joey.
to go from one governor ruling by fiat to another governor ruling by fiat.
That's an answer by a radio announcer who's never spent one day in the legislature. Let me just tell you how it works. You need 41 votes in the Assembly, 21 votes in the Senate, and the governor needs to sign it. And you know what the court's going to say to Mr. Spadea? Guess what? You can sign whatever you want, but that's not constitutional. I would like to do what you're saying, just can't do it.
All right, we're going to go on to Joey for our final question before closing statements.
Yeah, so I've got the last question of the debate, and I want to sort of hone in on something that we've all danced around a little bit tonight, which is winning this race. So, Mr. Spadea, you've run for office a couple of times. You haven't been successful. Mr. Chitterelli, you ran for governor twice. You did not win either time. Mr. Durr, you lost your state Senate seat in 2023. Mr. Bramnick, you have not lost your state Senate seat, but you've never run outside of your particular area of New Jersey. You're not tested anywhere but that particular area. So I want to ask, New Jersey Republicans are really hungry for a win. They've been in the wilderness since Chris Christie left office, and I just want to ask each of you, how are you going to make that happen? So I'll start with you, Mr. Spadea.
So my losses are funny because I ran for Congress 20 years ago, and I did lose. You know why? I was the only guy that stepped up in a 3-to-1 Democratic district to take on an incumbent congressman, and we doubled our percentage by knocking on 17,000 doors from 20 to 40 in just 5 weeks. So I learned a lot from that. The other time was a convention for a special election, and sure, I lost. I wasn't the insider. Ask this guy about that. But to your question, the next governor who will be successful as a Republican has to do one thing: capitalize on the momentum that Donald Trump has given us in New Jersey. 5 points. We now know that Donald Trump appeals to Hispanic voters, black voters, blue-collar workers. Donald Trump showed us the pathway to victory, and the right way to handle this is to run that style campaign. Listen, I've said this before on the air for the last 10 years. I've been listening to you, and I've been speaking to you, and I know the problems and how to solve them, but we've got to run a tough campaign and appeal to Democrats, independents, and middle class and working class voters. And that's what I'll be able to do.
Best question of the night, because guess what? Nothing changes unless you win. You say, I didn't run outside of my district. Well, let me tell you about my district. My district has 7,000 more Democrats than Republicans, has 72% of independent voters and Democrats. I won that by 7 points. Kamala Harris won that by 12 points. That's a microcosm of the state. The people in this state don't want a lot of yelling back and forth. They want someone who's going to listen and lead, not just scream at each other. They want a Republican with a heart. They want a Republican who's going to care about everyone in the state, and that's how I'm going to win, by caring about everyone, but bringing my Republican values to the state of New Jersey.
In 2021, when I was out busting my ass up and down the state 8 days a week in all districts, this guy was entertaining Phil Murphy in his backyard over a barbecue and putting it on the internet. This guy was on the radio every day saying he couldn't pull the lever for Chettarelli. And if you're voting for Chettarelli just because he's better than Phil Murphy, don't bother voting. We need someone who's going to unify our party. Donald Trump did it on Election Day. I did it to the best of my ability in 2021. I'll do it again here in 2025. And by the way, going into November 2021, my record on Election Day, yours 0-2. I was 7-0. Twice in a municipality, twice in a county, 3 times in a legislative district, term limiting myself every single time. He never talks about that. Term limiting myself every single time.
No, we call that Jack a professional politician. That's the problem.
You're a professional liar.
That's the problem.
In a municipality, a county, and a district where Democrats outnumber Republicans, because I go out and I talk about the issues that matter to most people.
So first of all, we wouldn't even be here if Jack Chettarelli had the guts to bring President Trump
Talk
here in
about
21.
the guts.
Do you know
neither one of
that
these guys stepped up to run for governor in
finish?
2021? They sat in the cheap seats and criticized the
Well, you
campaign
know what,
every day of the
Jack?
week.
I'm here
They didn't have the
now.
backbone to run in 2021.
Jack, I'm here now,
but here they are now.
and that's why you're running scared.
Here they are now.
And spending millions of dollars
Where
to lie
were
about
they
me.
in 21?
That's why.
Where were they in 21?
Look, here's the bottom line.
Where were you in 21?
Jack Chettarelli.
You didn't have the backbone to run in 21.
Arguing
over you didn't have the backbone to run in 21.
And refused to bring him into the state. Said he would win it on his own, to the point where Donald Trump himself came on my show. And what did he say about you, Jack? He said that guy really thought he was some hot stuff. You know what really happened? We had 6 out of 10 voters stay home in 21 because we had such a weak candidate.
I'm going to stop in here.
We'll do better this time,
We're going to go to Ed Durr, and then Joey has a follow-up before closing statements. Ed Durr.
There you go, Joey. Establishment. You got longtime career politicians, and you got establishment light. Things aren't going to change unless you change who's running. In 2021, I defeated the Senate President, Steve Sweeney. You did not show up in my district or campaign with me. You felt that it was a losing battle. You even pulled resources. And if you don't believe me, ask Commissioner Conowell sitting right there. The only way we're going to win is by doing something different, and I'm the guy. I'm different because I'm fighting for you. And they don't want a person who's equal to that, you people. They want their own picks, their establishment picks, or their establishment light. So the only way to win is by going with somebody different, and I will win.
So I've got another hand-raised question, which I know is everybody's favorite. It's something that Mr. Spadia just brought up. I'd like you to raise your hand if you win the Republican primary, you would welcome President Trump into New Jersey to campaign with you. So I'll go to you, Mr. Bramnick, because I think that is it's a more notable answer from you than from some of your peers. Why?
Here's why. I do it because I respect the office of the presidency. As the President of the United States, he hasn't done just bad stuff. He's done some good stuff. Everyone knows I'm not his biggest fan, But when a president does something that's good for New Jersey, I will support him. But I'm also the only one on this dais tonight who will stand up when the president does something that's not good for New Jersey. I don't fear standing up against people in my own party. But if the president of the United States is going to come into this state to support the Republican candidate, I will welcome him. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he does or everything he says. And I'm not sure he's coming in to support me if I stand up and say, hey, listen, I'm not 100% with everything you do. For example, January 6th. Wait a minute, just a minute.
Oh, Jesus.
We are the, well, let me tell you something. As governor, you have to speak the truth. Let's talk about that. He pardoned everyone. Now, including, that's fine. That's right. He even pardoned people who violently attacked police officers. And let me make this clear. Either we're the party of law and order or we're not. So you can clap, you can boo, whatever you want. But I will stand with police officers every time.
Okay, unfortunately, we are out of time. It is time now to go to our closing statements. Now, that order was determined by another draw. Bill Spadea, you are first, followed by Jack Chitterelli, John Bramnick, and then Ed Durr. Bill Spadea, to you.
Thank you, Laura. Boy, you listen to these guys tonight, and you really get the feeling that seeking political power is like a drug. I'm going to commit to you tonight to serve one term as your governor, because we have to separate the politics of re-election from the job of governing. And when you look at what has to happen in this state, a lot of unpopular political decisions will be made. It's going to be a tough road, and that's why I make that commitment. Now, who do we need to elect? Well, we got to get through this primary. I'm the only one that appeals to Democrats because I haven't given up my principles to do it. I am a strong pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-law enforcement, pro-parental rights conservative with common sense. Now, John, I'm going to give you some credit. At least John Bramnick, when he goes after President Trump and says he doesn't like him, he's being honest. Unlike Jack Chitterelli, who is a liar. This is a man who didn't vote for Trump, who didn't advocate for Trump, who didn't want him in the state, and got behind two never-Trumpers in the 2024 primary, Chris Christie and Nikki Haley, writing 2 checks for a lot of money to Chris Christie. Now, I'm up here asking for your vote because I'll tell you guys, we could do more of the same, and it's any one of these guys. I'm different. I'm common sense grounded. I am one of you, and we're in this fight together, and I humbly ask for your support. I want to serve as your governor.
Jack Chitterelli, you're next.
What Bill Spadea did when Chris Christie was trying to qualify for the New Hampshire primary is he had him on the radio show, gave him a very favorable 30-minute interview, and tried to help him raise money to qualify for the presidential primary. That's when Donald Trump was running for president. When Donald Trump was running for president, you said he was beaten, he was tired, he lacked courage, he lacked commitment. He should have resigned and let Joe Biden finish the job. He was a failure, and you were endorsing Ron DeSantis. John Bramnick said he would drop out of this race if Donald Trump won.
New Jersey.
Okay. We've got crises in this state, and we need a serious candidate. A serious candidate who brings very positive energy to campaign, is going to get up and down the state, and unlike my 2 opponents, raise the money necessary to win the election. There's only one candidate that's been able to do that. It's Jack Chitterelli. I hope to have the support and vote of Republican primary voters.
John Bramnick.
Thank you. The facts are still the facts. My friend Bill Spadea hasn't won an election. He's lost elections. Jack has already been rejected by the voters on 2 occasions, so it doesn't make sense to go back for a 3rd time when they've already rejected him. My friend Ed the trucker, he came in for 2 years and then he lost. I have a consistent record of winning in districts that are dominated by Democrats and dominated by independent voters. And the reason is because I say it the way it is. I don't simply change my views the way Jack Chitterelli does, depending on which year it is. I don't go out on the internet and read something and that becomes my philosophy. I rely on science. People trust me because I will tell you the truth, whether or not it fits the partisan agenda at that time. I will win the general election in November without any doubt by more than 10 points. Thank you.
Ed Durr.
Thank you again for having tonight's debate. And I'm sorry I didn't bring any popcorn for the rest of the folks. For those of you who don't remember me, I'm the guy who defeated the Senate president. And I plan on shocking the establishment again by becoming governor with your help. It's no secret, New Jersey has an affordability problem. I'm a regular guy. I'm just like you. And the working class has been getting crushed by high taxes in New Jersey. Democrats don't know how to fix it, and the establishment don't want to fix it. The only way to fix New Jersey is by doing something different. And I'm different. As governor, I will have access to the best and brightest minds New Jersey has to offer, and working together, we will solve New Jersey's affordability crisis. Comes down to this. Who do you trust? The establishment or somebody just like you, Ed the Trucker? Go to edthetrucker.com and learn more. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you all. That concludes the Republican New Jersey gubernatorial primary debate. I would like to thank all of the candidates for their time and responses. Thank you to the panelists, David Wildstein, Micah Rasmussen, Joey Fox, and Mac Rooney. Thank you to Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey for presenting this debate, and RWJ Barnabas Health, Prudential, and McCarter and English for sponsoring this debate. This evening's debate was produced by the New Jersey Globe, On New Jersey, and Rider University and Save Jersey. I'm Laura Jones. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, primary election day in New Jersey is June 10th.